Hello YouTube, my name is Dave and I suffer with OCD. Now I say suffer, compared to where I used to be, I don't really suffer at all anymore, which is where I want to help you guys get to as well. So we're going to start off with a little bit about myself. I'm 26 and I was diagnosed with OCD in 2019, along with high anxiety and mild depression, which at the time I didn't know that OCD came hand in hand with these two things. Now I don't suffer with the OCD that the stigma of the word is associated with. When people think of OCD, they tend to think about having to keep things meticulously clean, organised, and just overall tidy. The OCD that I suffer from is mainly mental. There is some physical aspects, which I will get into, but it is mainly mental. The type of OCD that I suffer with tends to be things like patterns and routines, along with physical aspects, for example, things like having to turn lights off multiple times, or make sure a door's locked loads and loads of times, or close a door a certain way, and I have to do it enough times until it feels right. I put air quotes around the word right because of the fact that it doesn't matter if it feels right or not, and if you're one of those people that feels like it has to feel right, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't, and I'm not even sure I believe that. I'm not at that stage yet, but I do want to be at that stage. Going back to that feeling of feeling right that I put air quotes around, because I don't think there's a case of, just feeling right, because I don't think you should ever feel wrong. I don't think that doing anything to do with your OCD should make you feel right, because you should feel right without it. I do believe that as well, but I mean, I obviously don't. I'm not able to do that either, so I do completely understand. I always describe the feeling right as feeling wonky. For example, I will say that if I don't do this in a certain way and I don't do this pattern or this routine correctly, I don't have the time to do it properly and actually, mentally clear myself of it, then I feel wonky. Now, to me, the best way I can explain that to someone that doesn't suffer with mental OCD is if your head was on a tilt like this and you weren't able to straighten it, but then you did, and then suddenly you feel right again. That's how I feel mentally when I say I feel wonky. I feel like my head's like this, and then when I do my routines and my patterns, I'm able to straighten back out again, and suddenly I do genuinely feel uncomfortable mentally and physically when I'm not able to complete an OCD routine or pattern, and it does make me feel physically and mentally uncomfortable to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to do this because I don't feel right. So my youngest memory I have that I remember of OCD, although I'm pretty sure I have had it for as long as I can remember, potentially my whole life, the time I noticed it when I was old enough to sort of notice it was, I think I was about 10, playing video games, and I turned off my games console before I'd gone to sleep. Turned it off and I went, well, that didn't feel right. So I turned it back on, and I turned it off again, and then on and off again and on and off again until it did feel right. As a 26-year-old, reflecting on that time, I wish I could have just turned it off and just ignored it, because I do feel like once I'd noticed it once, that's when things started to get worse for me. Afterwards, I noticed myself doing these routines and these patterns more often. For example, couldn't leave my room without turning off the light a certain way. If I went to close the door, turn the light off and close the door, and it didn't feel right, I had to open the door again and then turn the light on and off and on and off. And to be honest, if anything, it was annoying for me, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't great for my mum's electric bill. Anyway, I'm here to tell you that it does get better if you really do suffer with mental OCD, because I'm an example of it. I'm living proof that it can get better from being absolutely debilitating, it is ruining my life and stressing me out, to, yeah, it's still there, but it doesn't really change anything anymore. So we'll talk a little bit about OCD. So OCD stands for Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, and it is the act of doing something obsessively and compulsively, as the word would suggest. When I was younger, I thought that OCD was the same that most people think it is when it comes to keeping things clean and tidy and very, very organised. I had no idea that it could be mental. To be honest, at first I think I thought that I had Tourette's, because to me they came across a bit like tics, like having to move my face a certain way, or move my tongue and my mouth a certain way, or swallow a certain amount of times, or pop my shoulder out. I do this thing where I pop my shoulder. It's very hard to explain to somebody that doesn't have it. I have struggled to explain it to people in the past, and I'm pretty sure they think I'm a bit weird. But I did think they were more like tics, having to pop my shoulder out multiple times, which then creates shoulder pain, or having to make this weird noise with my throat, or I feel like I can't breathe properly. It can be quite debilitating. That stress you out, it can wear you out as well. I find that when my OCD is really bad, I'm just really tired and worn out. Today, filming this, I do feel quite tired. I've had a full day of work and I've came back and I'm like, I want to get this video done because I want to start this journey. I want to find people that suffer with OCD, and especially mental OCD, and I want to hear your guys' story, and I want to hear how you guys cope with it or what you do. And it can be a safe space where you can say it and you don't have to feel like that if you do say it, that it will change anything. Because I think one of the main reasons I've never really spoke about my OCD much is because there was a point in my life where I thought that if I kept these thoughts to myself, but I just kept doing them, I could basically control my life. Now, if you don't have OCD or that type of OCD, that's going to sound very weird to you. That's just how my brain works. That's just what I thought and what I believed. And I'm here to tell you that that's, not the case. As someone that suffered with OCD for many years, diagnosed at, my young adult years, but have had it probably since I was 10, maybe younger. I've dealt with it for quite a while. I've dealt with like the worst side of it, and I've dealt with the side of it now, which is like manageable, and I can get on with my day now. But there was a time where if I had any sort of responsibility or event or anything I just had to be on time for, 9 times out of 10 I was going to be late. And that could be down to having to close my bedroom door multiple times before I left, or turn the light switch off multiple times, or plug sockets multiple times, or going out of the door and then having to think something in my head, and if I don't when the door closes, I've got to go in and do it again. And I'm sure this definitely does sound very weird to someone that doesn't suffer with it. Stay with me, you might, if you don't know anything about it, you might learn a lot about it. So on this channel, I want to find people that suffer with the same kind of OCD, or multiple, any kind of OCD, and spread awareness for it, because I don't believe it's actually talked about enough. It took me till I was, in my early 20s until someone even told me, by the way, you have OCD. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's spoke about enough. I think a lot of people get the wrong misconception that it's all to do with, like I say, keeping things clean and tidy. And it's not always that way. Or at least for me, the case is keeping my mind clean and tidy and organised. So I suppose in a way it is, but mentally, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. As someone that's gone from the worst side of it to a side of it now where it's manageable, I want to share my tips and my experiences with it, and tell you guys stories about how it has affected me, and things that affected me that badly that I knew it had to change. And I also want to, just share things that I think help with my OCD personally. For example, I started going to the gym last October. I've been going since, and that has been something that's, fully changed my life, both mentally and physically. For me, it is a complete escape from my OCD, and I will probably make a whole video on that as a place for me where OCD is not really an issue. And I'll make a whole video on that, about how the gym has helped me and how it's a place for me where I don't have any OCD routines or patterns, and it's somewhere where I can go just to fully be away from it. The same with holidays and being in a place that isn't, a massively familiar environment. Me and my girlfriend recently went on holiday. For me, being on holiday was bliss, because I was in a brand new environment and I didn't have any routines or patterns already there. So for a good few days, it was great, because I didn't have any at all. And it was, other than the ones obviously I do mentally when I have to think a certain way, but all the physical ones and things I had to do when I walked into, say, my room or my place of work or my car weren't there, because I was in a completely different environment. So if you guys, do suffer from OCD, please let me know in the comments. Please let me know what type you suffer with as well. Because, although I do know quite a bit about it and I have suffered with it for quite a while, I'm always eager to learn more and to become more educated on it, that's for sure. I do think that awareness does need to be spread about it, because for ages, no one could even tell me that I had it until I met the right doctor and the right therapist that did tell me, oh, by the way, you most likely have OCD, to, yes, you have OCD because you have these things, and that's why you're thinking this way. I don't think there's a lot of help out there around it. There is CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. But personally for me, I didn't think it worked, because when I was going to do CBT, I asked about, oh, is this going to help my OCD? And they said, this is purely focused on your anxiety and depression. We're not going to go into your OCD. And that's the thing I think that's caused me the majority of my anxiety and depression in my life. The stigma of it's just all about being clean and tidy and keeping things like colour organised or organised in size. That needs to be put to the side, and the actual, the mental side of OCD needs to be talked about. The patterns, the routines, the intrusive thoughts, the counting of numbers in your head over and over again, the tics, the physical things you have to do. Because I do think they don't get spoken enough about, to the point where when I do speak about them, people do think, like I say, they think I'm a bit weird, or they might think, oh, well, he seems a bit nuts. But I think that's because there's not been that much awareness spread about it. Now, I don't want this channel to all be doom and gloom, you know. I mean, I don't want it to be doom and gloom at all. I want to be able to show, you know, daily experiences and things, like I say, things that have helped me. So, you know, activities that I enjoy, and just, you know, just overall, just, you know, just general life as someone that still, you know, does suffer with OCD. Now, the title of this video is probably something along the lines of my experience with OCD. So you're probably wondering, probably just, you know, waffled and went on an absolute tangent up until now, what my actual experience with it has been. My time with it, that I've had OCD, which I do still have from the ages of that I can remember, actually being, you know, sentient and suffering with it, you know, from probably about the age of about, you know, 9 or 10 to 26, you know, we're talking like 16, 17 years. It's been hard. And that's the, you know, that's the honest truth. It has been hard. It has been something that has affected my day-to-day life a lot. It's been something that has made me have, you know, breakdowns, you know, made me feel like I'm just different and I'm not, you know, something's not right, and that I'm just not the same as everybody else, and that there's something wrong with me. And it's not a nice feeling at all. My experience with it has not been great. I'm so glad I have people around me that, you know, do accept my OCD things, and they don't think that I'm weird, and I'm able to have people around me who I can tell, oh, by the way, I have OCD, I do these things. They might be a bit weird, but I can't help it, and I wish I could. Thank you for watching if you got this far, and I hope that if you do have OCD, that this video has helped you a little bit, maybe in just the fact that, you know that somebody else is also suffering with it as well. If that is the case, that this video has made you feel, you know, a little bit better, and, you know, that you're not weird because you're not weird. Yeah, well, that's about it. You know, if you guys will have any questions about OCD or my OCD, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you have comments about your own OCD, feel free to leave those in the comments as well. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching.